Welcome to RFD-TV Live, an informative and interactive hour featuring topics and products of interest to rural America, with expert guests on hand to answer your questions or discuss your feedback. And now, RFD-TV Live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to RFD-TV Live, SFP Across America. As we join you this evening, yes, we've been traveling across the country indeed, state to state, farmer to farmer, field to field, hearing farmers' stories about AVAIL, the phosphorus fertilizer enhancer from SFP, and NutriSphere-N, the nitrogen fertilizer manager from SFP. And growers, we have found, are not at all shy in sharing their yield experiences. Dave Schwartz from SFP joining me here at the studio console this evening. Hello, young man. It's good to see you again.
Max, it's great to be back.
You've had a busy year, haven't you?
We have had a phenomenal year, Max. It's been so fun, and the results just keep coming in, and we're really proud tonight to share with everybody on the viewing audience tonight. This is the farmers' night to talk and share their experiences with these two wonderful products, AVAIL and NutriSphere.
We will, before we're done this evening, also open up the phone line, so there'll be that opportunity for growers to call in individually if they want to before we're finished here, right?
Absolutely. We surely encourage you, if you've had some results that you'd like to share with us tonight, please call us tonight, and we'd like to hear from you.
And a little bit of a tease here. Before we're done on this broadcast, we're going to talk about the newest product coming along from SFP.
Yes, something that we're extremely excited about, Max. More Than Manure, MTM as we fondly call it, and we are tremendously excited about the potential that this product is going to bring to the livestock producers.
Stay tuned. There's more to come on that. Well, I tell you what, let's take a look right now at some of those grower testimonials. What producers are telling us that they have experienced. You need to hear from them directly. Let's go to the farmers.
We grow corn, soybeans, and wheat, and a little hay and straw. Our program is 4-gallon of 924-3 on a seed, 2 by 2.5, 9-gallon of potash, 5 gallons of 28% to get some extra nitrogen close to the seed to start with, and 5-gallon of 10-30-0 with zinc and sulfur and AVAIL. The AVAIL, first year we tried it, we checked it with a yield monitor, and we got 14 bushel the acre more, and we've stayed with it ever since.
We started using AVAIL on part of our corn acres last year as a trial. We put it on with our dry fertilizer in the fall. The elevator comes and spreads it, saves a pass in the spring. You know, availability is a big thing with our varying soil types. We got to keep these fertilizer available. There's a lot out there, but you can't get at it. As expensive as everything is these days, we need to keep it available so the crops, these high dollar crops, can use the fertilizer that we're putting out. Noticed it last year on a field that we had split, did half and half, and over the clay hills, the AVAIL side stayed nice and green, and it showed on the yield monitor where the non-AVAIL side wasn't there as far as yield a little bit, and you could just see it in the appearance, and you know something's happening. Our AVAIL side was more even over those hills. A nice green, even stand. It was visually taller than the other side, and we were showing a good 5 bushel came across on the yield monitor, so definitely more than paid for itself. AVAIL's a good product. It's definitely worth a try. I really don't believe you're going to be disappointed in it. It gives you the availability to lower your fertilizer rate as well. As expensive as fertilizer is, if you can cut your rate on your fertilizer and still get the benefit out of it by using this product, it's definitely worth a try.
They hear us talking and stuff, and they were questioning things, you know, why are you getting these kind of yields and stuff, and of course I told them we reduced our phosphate level, I mean, spreading poundage per acre because of this product, and said we got proof, you know, that it's working. We're all in here for the dollar, and you want to save as much as you can, and you know, this is at a 200-pound rate for doing it, and we're getting very good results. Several neighbors have went with it now around here because they see it, and of course we got a shop here, and they stop by and visit, and they're sold on it too.
I grow about 250 acres of grain crops, and about 1/3 corn and 2/3 beans, and about 55 acres of wheat and a little bit of oats. And I put about 200 pounds of fertilizer on the corn, about 225 pounds of fertilizer on beans, and a little bit of MAP on the wheat product. The AVAIL product definitely helped me this year, I think, with a season pass from Lakeview Fertilizer. Yielded me about 170 bushel average overall.
Typically in the fall when we plant our winter wheat, we put down, mix some urea in with the 1846O, the potash and sulfur. And then in the spring when we top dress with urea, we use the NutriSphere. Usually it's wet, soils are warming up, and a lot of times we'll get the volatilization if we don't have the NutriSphere on it. Anytime you can invest, say, $5 an acre on a product that you know is going to help with the yield, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to know that you're going to get, with the current prices, that definitely get your money back on that.
You know, we have 3 types of soil. We have the prime fields, you know, and everybody knows what that's like. But then we have the dry fields and we have the wetter fields, and those really are the make it or break it situations. You know, the profitability in farming those, in some years it doesn't pencil. So we were trying to find creative ways to make those marginal fields, put them back into the profit zone. And, you know, everything we do on this farm is through a test plot, because we don't have the money to try things on a large scale. And so on a small scale, we can try things and learn from it. What we found was on some of the marginal ground, on the wetter ground, this NutriSphere-N was able to take us from 120 bushel range up to 150. And 1 year of seeing that, that was the only thing I did on that farm differently. It made it up in my mind to keep trying it. Next year we used it on all the farms that we had in the marginal situation. And we saw again a yield increase. So last year we used it on everything. I figured, you know, if this product is working, you know, you're putting down nitrogen, it's foolish not to use it. You know, and last year it paid off spades, because when everybody else had a lot of rain last year, their nitrogen was leaching, and I knew mine was sitting there in the ground where it needed to be. So, you know, in the days where it's the last kernels that are the profits, you know, it makes perfect sense in my program.
Well, how I got started farming, it was a family farm in northwestern Wisconsin, and I've been doing it 10 years and got married, and it just seemed like the right answer for us to continue in the family tradition, I guess. Well, on our farm we do a lot of corn and beans, and when we've done some wheat in the past, but it's mostly corn and beans. We tried NutriSphere, kind of, not to say on a whim, but we tried it more or less on a dare. And on our first year, we really had good success with it, and we've been continuing with it as kind of in the row application. It's just been a wonderful tool for us to use. We are using it as a side dress, and we use it in a liquid form. You know, we have liquid on our planter. It just seems to gradually, that plant's uptake is a gradual uptake of that nitrogen, and it really seems to use it throughout its growing life. Tremendous yield difference. It was 12 bushel the acre over our anhydrous acres, so it was something that we really look forward to using in the coming years.
In the past 2 or 3 years here in this area, it's been really wet, and we haven't been able to get the wheat in that we wanted to get in. And I really feel like when you get into wetter soils like that, a lot of your nitrogen that you do put down is either lost or volatilized into the air. So we started using a nitrogen stabilizer, which we chose NutriSphere, and I think we've got along real well with it. So your stay green is one of the major benefits, and when you can get a healthy plant and it stays green longer, it helps get to that stage where the flag leaf, and you want your flag leaf to be a good, healthy stage when that wheat gets ready to bloom and to come into the heading stage. 3 years ago, we had some wheat that was on what I called a side-by-side, which the wheat I really felt like made about 8 bushel to the acre more. Using NutriSphere is what it made on the other field, on the other side of the field. Basically, typically the ground was the same type of ground all over the whole field. So in the fall, we'll put down a portion of our nitrogen with our phosphate and potash and then incorporate it into the soil before we plant the wheat. And then in the past years, I've noticed that the plant seems to stay green. It greens up, and it's more healthier going into dormancy into the winter time. Well, A lot of this fescue in this area has what we call a fungus that is in the fescue, and I really feel like when that plant stays healthy that you're eliminating a lot of that fungus that grows down into that plant there, and when the cattle ingest that plant that has fungus in there, then they'll either get sore-footed or you'll have some other parasitic problems with them, and it just seems like a healthier plant you don't have near the problems with that grass. Your seed and your fertilizer and your fuel costs are all higher, so that you've got to be able to utilize everything that's there available. You don't just want that plant to stay green here till it gets up to maybe V6 or whatever, or just starting to tossle, and then all at once it runs out of nitrogen. Well, you've wasted all your effort and time that you put into that. You want it to be able to make it through the whole growing season, from ear fill all the way till harvest, because I mean that nitrogen, as long as it's available there, that plant takes it up even all the way to the end of the cycle. So I'd recommend NutriSphere to anybody that's using liquid dry nitrogen, putting it on in split applications or putting it on top dressing, side dressing. I really feel like it's a product that it's out there, and for the minimal expense that it costs, you're sure getting your full benefit out of your nitrogen.
So it isn't just university experts, it isn't just SFP people talking about AVAIL and NutriSphere-N. Certainly, Dave Schwartz, we're hearing from the growers themselves by all means.
And that's what it's all about, Max. That's what Larry Sanders created this company for, was to benefit growers. And they're the heartbeat of America. And it really makes us feel real especially proud tonight to hear from these growers who, you know, they step right up and call us and tell us about their results. And I really have a really fun job to get to deal and interact with these folks. And you've got to know some of them too, Max.
I have too, and you're exactly right. You don't have to solicit the commentary.
No.
I was driving down the road this very afternoon, and a grower friend of mine said, yeah, we use it because, you know, it's worked for us. Third year we've used it now.
And that just, the phones ring about every day, and we got several that called today, even right as we were planning this show today, to tell us their results in hopes that maybe we could mention them tonight on the air, and we're going to try to do that.
We have some studies we want to share with folks too, right? We have some data to pass along while we're sharing the producer testimonials.
Yes, and we're trying to reach out a little further now, and we're trying to get into the environmental side of things, Max. As you heard these growers just talk on the video about reducing rates, getting all of the benefit out of the fertilizer products. Here's a study that was done by the USDA in the Honey Creek watershed in Tiffin, Ohio.
This is, I believe, northwest Ohio, isn't it?
Yes.
In that part of the state?
And Brett Margraf, the nutrient management specialist with the USDA, conducted this study with 4 growers. This is just one of the studies on his farm, but all 4 were very synonymous in the way they turned out. They set a standard at the 4-collar height on corn for their tissue analysis that they wanted to have a desired level of 0.41 or 41% P uptake. So they tried different rates of 1034.0 with and without AVAIL. And as you can see, 5 gallons of 1034 by itself did not make that desired level. But when they added the AVAIL, they went way above it. You're seeing a 19.5% increase above the desired level, comparing 5 to 5. Now let's look at 10 gallons. 10 gallons by itself was 0.33, which is 19% below the desired level, but when we added the AVAIL to the 10 gallons, it put it at 0.53, which was 29.2% above the desired level. So again, this is showing that we're above the desired level with half the fertilizer, Max. So, you know, there's a lot to be learned from lessons like this and studies. And again, this was done by the USDA in a watershed that is highly susceptible to phosphorus runoff. And that's why they're looking at these type of things and why we have such a good fit in everybody's overall management plan for the environment.
That's a good agriculture area up there, too, as I recall. I believe Champaign County, Ohio, is one of the counties in that area, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of good producers, a lot of forward-thinking, progressive growers there.
A very high, intense farming area. We had the pleasure this summer of traveling through that area, and of course, it wasn't the best year for those folks over there with the late planting and everything, but you know, there is a lot of people that are looking to try to find ways to improve that water quality over there. It's a highly susceptible area to water quality with the Lake Erie Basin there, and that's something that you know, we got to keep working on as an industry.
I would imagine, given the kind of moisture that they had over there this year, I mean, they had all kinds of challenges by all means, but moisture at the wrong time. And one thing that we note is that these products can play a role when you do have excess moisture and moisture deficits.
Well, it's funny you say that, Max, because we called today to our rep, Tony Donahoe, out there in that part of the country, and they haven't even harvested these plots yet. So they're battling wet weather again. Here we are after Thanksgiving, and you know, we think everybody's done harvesting, but this particular region is still battling that wet weather to try to get the harvest done. We might mention you folks are going to have a webinar online. Producers watching this broadcast after we are off the air this evening can hook up and communicate with Dave from SFP and get some additional questions answered. You'll go to sfp.com right after the broadcast, and that'll be at 8:05, about 8:05 Central Time, just 5 minutes after we're off the air. That post-show webinar will take place. Go to sfp.com, and then you'll see, I believe, an RFD-TV button there, and you click on that, and it'll take you right into the webinar. You can hook up and get some additional answers. Very easy to get to us, and we really encourage you to do that tonight because we know there'll be a lot of questions, and we can answer them to the fullest extent when we get you on the webinar. So if you don't get in on the call, please go to the webinar. Let's hear what some other growers have to say. What do you think? We're going to start out by going to Ohio again. And back in the summer, we had the privilege of being on the Ship Farm there in Wapakoneta, Ohio, right outside Wapakoneta. Jerry shared this.
In 2008, we did some test trials with AVAIL and NutriSphere, and saw 3 to 7 bushel increase with the AVAIL and 8 to 13 with the NutriSphere. The following year, which is 2009, we actually, because of fertilizer prices, backed the row starter off about 10% and used AVAIL and still had increased yields. And then last year and this year, we've stepped the row starter back up to where we usually are, and with AVAIL. Last year we had increased yields again. In 2009 and 2010, we've had our best corn crops ever, you know, even with some weather problems.
So we used the NutriSphere in our 32, and then we used 1034-0 with the AVAIL. We could see a lot of difference right off the bat. We had 20 inches of rain in 20 days, and our neighbors' corn didn't look quite as good. It didn't bounce back. Ours stayed there and kept on going, so we're real happy with that part of it. We've already been approached by our neighbors about what did you guys do this year that made everything look so much better? Why is yours staying green? Why is it going ahead and being uniform and everything like that? And we just told them that we use NutriSphere and AVAIL in our starters. We basically didn't use any different formulations of starters or any different pre-plant than they did, but we did have the NutriSphere and AVAIL in there, and we felt that that was a big difference. We're very pleased with it. We're definitely going to use it again. I think for the cost, you know, what it cost us for the NutriSphere and AVAIL, you know, put in with our fertilizer and our 1034-0, we were very happy with the results for the fact that it was there and it was available, and we didn't have to go back and put more on. And this year it's going to be a thing because all fertilizers are going up, so a guy's going to want to take advantage of everything he can.
We soil test every year. We are big believers in not putting down more nutrients than we need, but we also like doing maintenance recommendations because we're not big fans of depleting the soil from everything that it has and then turn around the next year and have to start from scratch. We like to maintain good soil health, good soil tilth, and I think each year that we can do that, we'll see benefits each year to come by managing those type of nutrients. We were introduced to NutriSphere and AVAIL products through our agronomist and through our local retailer. We were dealing with problems of nitrogen leaching because of the heavy rains in the spring. We were doing different types of programs in how we applied our nitrogen. NutriSphere opened the door to a lot of easier type of applications with nitrogen products. With tobacco, we're doing a lot of nitrogen, applying different times through the transplanting all the way through harvesting. And NutriSphere just has opened those doors to being able to put the nitrogen down when it's needed and knowing that it's going to stay there with us. Just like AVAIL, we've been able to use AVAIL to do the same types of being able to position the nutrients where we need them when we need them, and knowing that the plant is going to be able to take them up at the opportune time that it's going to need it, thanks to your products being there for us. The test strips that we've been able to utilize with NutriSphere and AVAIL have really shown us what the ability is by using these products to be able to, again, micromanage our nutrient processing, where we're placing them, how we are, and how to utilize them. The trials that we've done with NutriSphere have been wonderful. We have seen yield bumps as much as 8 to 10 bushel by using NutriSphere on our corn, on all the different types of ways that we're applying it. And it has given us a wider window of when we can put down nitrogen, knowing that it's going to stay there with us. Same way with AVAIL. We've used AVAIL on our corn and our tobacco, and we've seen tremendous yield bumps by using it with the tobacco as a transplant and as a side dress type product. If other farmers were going to come to me and question the products of NutriSphere and AVAIL, I would tell them to do the same types of things that our agronomist and that our retailer asked us to do, and that was to try them. Not to use them on the entire crop that first year, but rather take a portion of a field, a portion of a farm, and simply utilize the products in a number of different recommended ways. Pick whichever one fits your operation the best and simply try it. And I would tell you that every farmer that did that would continue to use your products year in and year out.
Well, the reason we implemented NutriSphere-N is because I have a good bit of dry land, and sometimes when you do your side dressing and put your nitrogen and all out, you don't have the rain to get it in the ground. So the NutriSphere seems to keep makes it more available and lasts longer instead of being so volatile. Last year, out here, we were using NutriSphere, and I did it myself that year with a tag-along, and they were unavailable, or the tag-alongs were gone, and I had to go to another outfit and use their tag-along, and I used straight urea pound for pound, and you could see a line in the field where the original, the NutriSphere was a steady level, and whereas the urea was a spike, a peak, and then it leveled off, but the NutriSphere seemed to keep it green and growing for a longer time. Since I've been using NutriSphere, it seems to keep the crops greener, healthier, longer. AVAIL seems to enhance the fertilizer, and I have not used it on every acre, but I have split some pivots with it and on corn and some cotton last year, but I don't have any data on the cotton, but the corn seemed to be a minimum of a 25 bushel increase per acre with the AVAIL. Since I started using NutriSphere and AVAIL, my yield seemed to have increased, and I'm happy. I'd really like the NutriSphere. That has been very, very good for me, to just keeping that nitrogen available. I mean, that's just, I really like that. And especially on a dry land situation, that's excellent.
Soil types, we vary in soil types. We vary in depth of topsoil. Some places we only have 4 or 5 inches of topsoil. Some places we'll have a foot or two, you know. It's some places the soil drains well, some places it doesn't, some places it's sandy, and it's just we have such a variations in soil types. Our corn program, we started the year with putting on about 400 pounds of 32-10-10 with AVAIL and NutriSphere-N, both applied by spreader truck at the first of the year. We'll probably go back and put about 30 units of nitrogen with NutriSphere on the liquid. We applied 250 pounds of triple 19 fertilizer to the wheat in October when we planted. With AVAIL on the fertilizer. We came back in February and applied nitrogen with NutriSphere-N to all of our wheat. The AVAIL was only on 38 acres. We wanted to experiment and see how that worked out for the year. And looks like it's going to work out very well. The wheat was a healthier wheat through the winter. darker green, better looking wheat. Then we decided to go ahead and just put the AVAIL on all of our corn ground. When we walked across the field, you could just see when you got there a big difference in the wheat. We had a different guy spread fertilizer on the same company, but it was a different driver went out and top dressed the wheat, and he wanted to know what the differences was in the wheat, because the AVAIL wheat was so much healthier looking whenever he was top dressing the wheat. We had some agronomists out, and we went out and looked at the wheat. We was comparing the wheat that had AVAIL to the wheat that did not whenever it was fully headed out. The wheat that had the AVAIL on it had more grain rows than the wheat that did not have AVAIL. Usually it was on an average of 3 to 5 grain rows per head difference. The most important factor to me is the better the crop, the better your bottom line is at the end of the harvest season. I believe that NutriSphere and AVAIL both have helped our plant, helped our farming operation. I would most definitely recommend AVAIL and NutriSphere-N.
With the no-till conditions we're going into nowadays and people wanting spreading on and $50 an acre nitrogen cost, why wouldn't you use it? We get into the technical data, which we don't want to do here, and show them and explain to them how it will enhance their yields, or if they are really concerned and conservative, we can sell it to them and keep the price of the fertilizer the same, and they won't be any worse off than if they weren't using it at all and upping the rate. So we can custom suit it to the producer to best suit them. My first concern is, because I'm a producer, is that any product I bring to my retail, to the public, has to work for me. If it doesn't work for me, I don't want to sell it through my business. I believe in the product. It's a good product. We use it ourselves, so I can stand behind that and say it. And as a dealer, I can say that it'll add margin to our sales.
Southern States reps recommended the AVAIL to make the phosphorus more available, and with corn production, it's very important planting in the cool soil temperatures because of the binding of the phosphate into the soils, and your corn will turn purple and generally will stun it, and we use the pop-up, mix it with pop-up 1034O fertilizer, and the reason for the pop-up is to have a more readily available form of phosphate, and anything that will help the phosphate become more readily available we were open for, so that's why we chose the AVAIL upon the recommendation of the Southern States salespeople. We used it on every acre, but compared to other years, we saw no phosphate deficiency whatsoever with that purpling around the edge of the leaves. We didn't see any of that this year, and that's a real common occurrence, especially when you're planting early, to see that, and we didn't see any of it. We used the NutriSphere. They blended it with the, coated the urea with it to help it from leaching, keep it from leaching. You know, down here in South Alabama, you can get some thunderstorms that come up and dump 4 to 5 inches of rain on you in a heartbeat, and you can lose a lot of value of your nitrogen rather quickly in our sandy soils here. And so anything that we could do to protect our investment on our nitrogen and keep our crop growing and not let it go into deficiency, we were willing to do. And again, we didn't have a head-to-head comparison where we used it and didn't use it. We used it on every acre, but we will be doing it again next year. We're presently using it on winter grazing for cattle. Same thing, to prevent the leaching and to keep the plants healthier longer without running out of and seeing nitrogen deficiencies. When the corn was probably 30 inches tall, we put out our herbicides, our atrazine and Ignite to clean up weeds, and put the fertilizer to it, and that was kind of the last opportunity before the corn got too big to have have a machine go through it, you know, before the height got to be an issue. And we used the pop-up fertilizer with the AVAIL to get it, because it has some nitrogen in it, to get our nitrogen needs and phosphate needs up until that point where it, you know, 30-inch tall or something like that, and then we put out the big dose right before it gets too big to be in there with any kind of machinery, without lodging the plants, so that it'll last the full season. Matter of fact, we used some on some cotton this year, and just the time that the Southern States truck driver got out of the field, we had one of those flash flood rains that I was talking about, and we pondered going back and putting more nitrogen because we thought that it had probably washed away. It was a slope field with terraces and had a lot of runoff, and we were really afraid that we had lost a lot, but we never saw any nitrogen deficiency, and ended up making right at 1,000 pounds to the acre of lint. So we were pleased with that, and I feel like that had something to do with it, because I've seen those heavy rains before with other products like just plain ammonium nitrate and whatnot, and you'll see some deficiencies after something drastic like that, which that's rare, but as expensive as all this fertilizer is, to add a few more bucks to it to protect your investments, sort of nominal. We use the AVAIL in the 10-30-40 pop-up mix that we use at planting. We didn't see the purpling. We used the NutriSphere coated urea when we did our lay-by nitrogen application. It was some of the best corn we've ever produced, and it was a horrible year, just a horrible production year here in Alabama, and made some of the best corn we've ever made, and we got our recipe down, and we won't be changing it anytime in the near future.
Get your crops off to a great start. Use Season Pass with AVAIL, your ticket to higher yields. Season Pass, a low-salt starter, is non-corrosive, includes zinc, low application rates, available NPK row starter, and includes AVAIL technology. With as little as 3 to 5 gallons per acre, Season Pass can be applied in furrow, saving precious planting time while maximizing your yields. To get your growing season off to a great start, contact Darren Blank at 812-455-4911.
Improve your pastures from the ground up with the Co-op and NutriSphere-N Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager.
Felt like we got a really good return on NutriSphere this year. We had some of probably the best pastures. Our pastures stayed greener longer this year than probably they ever have since we've been farming. It convinced me this year that I'm a believer in NutriSphere. I'll be using it from now on.
Talk to your local co-op today to add NutriSphere-N to your nitrogen fertilizer order and for all your beef, dairy, and equine needs, or visit them at ourcoop.com.
We're back on RFD-TV Live, SFP Across America tonight, as we're hearing from growers and their experiences with AVAIL and NutriSphere-N from SFP. We're going to offer you the opportunity to call in a few minutes. Let us give you that telephone number so that you'll have it handy when you try to call in a little while. It's 877-731-6733. And then don't forget, after the broadcast, 5 minutes after we're off the air, there'll be that webinar where you can hook up directly with Dave Schwartz. You can go to SFP.com, then click on the RFD-TV button, and that'll take you right there. We've heard from growers, Dave, talking about a variety of crops, but let's zero in on corn, the biggest acreage crop in America right here, and talk about some of the trial results you've gotten.
Yeah, and Max, one of the reasons why we heard so many glowing reports here goes back to our database. This is a 10-year database that we've put together. This is all university trials, all independent research trials, using AVAIL in the granular form and in the starter form. And what we're showing you right here, 163 documented trials where we use the granular, AVAIL on the granular MAP and DAP. We're looking at an average, this is throwing them all together, and we're looking at an average of 12.3 bushel per acre. Now, I do a little farming on the weekends myself, you know, and the price of corn's not too bad right now. And you take that $6 corn times 12.3 bushel, you know, that is a very nice return on investment. And most times you're looking at this product costs about $6 to treat 100 pounds of phosphorus fertilizer. On the liquid starter side, you know, a lot of guys, you heard a lot of guys in the videos there talking about pop-up starters and in the 3 to 5 gallon range. And when we combined all of our database on the liquid starter, where we added AVAIL, we had a 7.5 bushel increase. And Max, a lot of those starters, you know, you're not talking a lot of units of phosphorus. To have that kind of conversion efficiency, that's tremendous return on investment. You're looking at about a $5 per acre investment treating 5 gallons of liquid starter with AVAIL.
And again, you're talking about over a period of 10 years, these trials
yes, this is a
collected.
Compiled data from 10 years of all of our database from all the university independent research trials across America.
Good years, bad ones, tough,
all
tough
thrown into
years,
one pot. Yes.
All the extremes.
Yes, and we heard some of that here on the videos as well. The next thing we want to show you is, you know, we're real interested in, you know, we hear a lot of farmers say, well, my phosphorus levels are extremely high. I really don't need AVAIL, or how could it benefit me? And so we took our database and we crunched it down into low, medium, and high soil test phosphorus levels. And then we put the yield data behind those soil test levels. And it's very interesting, Max. We look at low testing P soils. We're looking at about a 13.6 bushel average increase in yield. On the medium testing soils, about a 9.6. And on the extremely high testing soils, which everyone thinks are, there's no way you could see a benefit from using AVAIL, you're looking at a 13.3. Now, one of the things that we've discovered along the way in our path over the last 10 years is that the high testing soils of P are probably the ones that fix the most P.
Interesting.
That is why you see the high levels on the soil test, is because that soil has the ability to fix more phosphorus.
Sure.
So by adding the AVAIL, we're able to get more yield out of those high P testing acres. So again, our model that we've talked about through the years, Max, is any crop, any soil, any climate. And this pretty well shows you why.
Supports that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Next, we'll move to pHs. Again, pH has a big impact on phosphorus availability. And of course, we look at this chart here. We're looking at pH is below 5.9. We're getting an extremely high response of 18.5 bushel per acre on corn. Then we take what we call the really good mid-range pHs, 6 to 7. You know, we're still showing a nice 13 bushel response in that arena. And then, but yet on the high pH soils, we're still showing a 13 bushel response. So yes, those pHs that are below 5.9, that are low, that you do have more fixation that occurs on those soils. And again, our database shows that. So it just flows right along with science. And that's why we're extremely proud of what we've got to offer, and it makes a lot of sense.
Well, let's see what you've found with NutriSphere-N then over the years.
NutriSphere-N has been extremely, let's just say, beneficial to a lot of people, as you heard in the videos. And, you know, you're chasing nitrogen. That is a very mobile element out there. When we apply nitrogen, it can move very fast.
We see that all the time, don't we?
Yes. And we look at the two forms of nitrogen that we sell NutriSphere-N on right now, and that would be your dry urea, and that would be your liquid UAN. And we have two products, for one specifically for the urea and one for the liquid UAN. And if you look at the database here, 108 trials on urea. Now, one thing we want to make sure you understand is that urea is a 100% ammonium nitrogen product. So we can protect 100% of that nitrogen in urea. On UAN, however, that UAN product is a combination of ammonium nitrate and urea, so there's only 25% of that UAN is nitrate, which we cannot protect. So these yield results that we've gotten over the last 10 years, looking at 14.9 bushels per acre when we treat urea with NutriSphere-N, and 10.7 on liquid UAN, falls right into line with the way the products are formulated. So we're extremely proud of that. It just, again, follows science the way it should.
You're protecting what can be protected.
Exactly, Max. And so that's why you hear the response from the growers, and that's why the sales of these products just continue to impress us with skyrocketing amounts.
Understandably. We've been hearing from a lot of growers, all right, and Kelvin Brower is standing by. I know Kelvin is in Dune, Iowa. I believe, Kelvin, that's about as far northwest as you can get and still be in Iowa, isn't it?
Yeah, you got that right.
Well, it's great to have you with us here on SFP Live as we talk to growers across the country. I know you and Dave have visited in the past.
Kelvin, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Kelvin, you might want to tell our audience, you know, we've been working together now for about 3 years. You were not exactly an easy sale.
No. No, I'm kind of particular what I get into.
You learned about us watching RFD-TV. And,
Yes, I did. Yep.
and I remember that first telephone call from you. You wanted to learn more, and I invited you to a grower meeting. You showed up, and that was kind of the beginning of our relationship. Kelvin, you're a unique farmer. You're trying to do something that a lot of guys would like to try to do, but you're so intense about your farming practice. Tell us a little bit about the methods of farming that you do.
Okay, I guess I'm kind of an innovator. It kind of boils down to my philosophy is do the best you can. You know, that's why the good Lord put you here. But basically, I always start with the basic. I start out, you know, what's your most important deals to start playing with. And my number one, of course, is sunlight. You know, that's the most important element of a plant. You know, you can throw anything you want at a plant, but without sunlight, you know, it's all for naught. So what I do is I kind of went to strip farming. I've done this for, I guess probably 7, going on 8 years now. And, you know, just to get maximum, I guess you could call me a robber of sunlight. I'm trying to get maximum sunlight. And I kind of knew this years ago. You know, it's just a kind of a common sense deal. You go up and you go up to a field and your first rows look just beautiful. You know, you think, wow, we're going to have a crop this year. And then you get into about the 5th, 6th row and the further in the field, and all of a sudden, boom, what happened to my yield? So I guess that's why I started playing with this. And, yeah, that's kind of the start of it. I stripped 6 rows of corn and 15 feet of beans.
Your interest in trying the AVAIL NutriSphere, just kind of share with the audience tonight, Kelvin, how you've tried the products and what you have noticed in the 3 years that you have been experimenting.
Okay, I guess my fertilizer base is manure. I start with manure. I'm in a heavy manure area, and so I kind of build around the manure. And I'm always looking for things that I can do, and basically from the manure, I spoon feed everything. But my biggest problem is, you know, I've got super organic matter, everything's great, but the problem is when you get to that situation, you get tie-up. You know, it's just a common sense deal. So I'm continually looking at things that help me as far as improving. You know I have a lot of fertility there that's unavailable, and that's why I guess I approached you, and I like to play with different things. And I have definitely seen a major step up with your products, which I really appreciate.
Kelvin, you've been using the AVAIL in the starter fertilizer, is that correct?
Right, yep.
And then you've been using NutriSphere-N on your UAN as a side dress?
Yep. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in spoon feeding. I guess beyond the manure, I spoon feed everything. It's really important to get it on at the critical time and the critical place, I guess you'd call it.
Well, I've witnessed how you operate, and you are a highly motivated research farmer. I guess that's why we've enjoyed working together so much, is that you do many research plots on your farm. And could you just share some of the results that you've seen with the AVAIL and NutriSphere?
Well, I guess as far as the corn goes, with my strips, you know, it was pretty easy to get in the upper 200s, but I guess me being me, I'm never satisfied. I always want to go a little further. So then with the AVAIL in the starter, and you got to realize different genetics make a difference, but I test everything real thorough. So I do different genetics too, but I've seen the first year already anywhere from 10 bushel all the way up to 30 bushel enhancement with AVAIL in the starter compared to no AVAIL in the starter. So I was pretty impressed there, but I don't know if there's any logic to it, and I'm still playing with it, but I got a feeling that AVAIL is helping me release some of the nutrients from the fertilizer, or the manure, which would be great because that's what I've been looking at. But that's kind of what I'm seeing so far.
You've had 3 different types of years in a row up there. You might want to just share your experience on the weather that you've had.
Yeah, we've been anywhere from feast or famine, I guess you'd call it, floods to drought. This year we turned extremely dry, and I was very impressed yet with what the yields were. But the strips have really survived much better to I also have river ground, which has, of course, flooded many times over the past 3 years. And I literally had corn in standing water like 3-4 different times in the same year. And this is an honest truth that I had corn that was 100 bushel difference between the NutriSphere applied nitrogen and the non-NutriSphere. So that's pretty impressive that it would hold through floodwaters even. So that was another big turn-on for me.
Well, Calvin, as you try to pursue, I guess I like to call you, you're about the most efficient farmer I've ever run into. You're all about increasing yields on your acreage. There's a lot of growers out here probably watching our show tonight that, you know, buying more land probably isn't in the cards for them. And so kind of share your philosophy and kind of wrapping up on that.
Excuse me, I didn't catch that. On what product?
No, your philosophy on you're limited on your acres.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm not a big farmer. I just have 800 acres here, but I've got 2 boys that really want to play farmer. I have one of them that got involved about 8 years ago, and the other one just came on board a couple years ago. So the name of my game, I guess, is return per acre. I'm keeping 3 families off in a small farm, I guess you'd call it. So my philosophy is the more I can get per acre, the better. And then when the grandkids keep coming, that just makes me work a little harder because we got another mouth to feed. So that's kind of my philosophy.
You've also played with alfalfa. You just want to share your results on alfalfa?
Yeah, I was really amazed with that, with the AVAIL product, and also I started with the newer, more than manure product too. That my goal was always to get 10 tons to the acre, and I've been real close. In fact, I did touch on it 1 year. That was probably about 5 years ago. And now this past year, I treated, it was new seeding a year ago, and I did some test strips. The whole field average, which blew me away, and this is dry matter now. We waited and, you know, got a bale count and took it from there. But I had a whole field average of just short of 12 ton, and some of my check strips went up to 13 ton on my different experiments. So I was real thrilled with that also.
Well, Calvin, we look forward to working with you in the future. You definitely give us all an inspiration on how efficient you can be on the acres that you have to farm. And we look forward. Kelvin is going to be working with us at some of the shows coming up to talk to farmers directly, Max.
Kelvin, we look forward to having the opportunity to meet you personally sometime, but we thank you for joining us here on SFP Across America this evening. It's great to have you on the broadcast. Tell the folks in Northwest Iowa we said hello.
Yep, will do. Thanks a lot, Max.
All right, so long, sir. Kelvin Brower there from Dune, Iowa.
Beautiful area up there. It is livestock heaven in that part of the world.
You know what? He mentioned that MTM, more than manure. We want to talk a little bit about that yet. Don't go there yet. Hang on. I know I have to kind of put a bridle on you and hold you back. You're like that horse that wants to just belt out of the gate there. Bolt out of the gate, I should say. But we'll be back to talk about more than a manure. We'll take your calls. We have an open line, I believe, at the moment. We'll try to squeeze you in here. Our telephone number, 877-731-6733 is the number to call. That's 877-731-6733. We'll be back here on RFD-TV Live.
It's not too early to think fall. So protect your phosphorus fertilizer application with AVAIL Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Research shows that fall-applied phosphate protected by AVAIL increases corn yields by 8 bushels per acre. That's why it pays to add AVAIL Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. So save yourself time and money next spring. Talk to your fertilizer dealer today for more information, or visit ChooseAVAIL.com.
When 4 lanes turn to 2 and the air becomes just a little sweeter, you'll know you're getting closer. We are where the work gets done. If you're a worker, a fixer, a grower, or a doer, then welcome home. Southern States, a place for those who do. Farmer-owned since 1923. It's easy to maximize the effectiveness of your fertilizer with AVAIL Phosphate Fertilizer Enhancer. Just ask the experts at Southern States.
Back here on SFP Across America, where we're meeting growers from across America, I don't want to let this get away because Kelvin, I mean, he called attention to it, and yet, you know, it was just kind of buried in there with everything else he was talking about with the great research he's doing. He talked about a yield difference in NutriSphere-N. I might not have heard him correctly. Was it 100 bushels difference?
Yes, he did have that on a river bottom field that was flooded.
And it had flooded?
About 3 times in the same year.
So there would have been significant nitrogen loss in some of those plants in that field. Very significant.
And that's not unlike several other calls I've had in these flooded years in the Midwest. We get calls coming in from growers that have experienced a lot of flooding, and that's probably one of the biggest selling points that we have heard growers tell us about the NutriSphere. They totally understand after you've went through that and seen it right to the row where the product held during that flooded situation. And yeah, it just lends more credence to our science. You know, we can talk about it all the time, but when you see it, you know, that really puts the point across.
More and more growers found out this year they were in flood susceptible areas too, didn't they?
Yeah, I happen to live in one of those areas in western Iowa. You know, that wasn't created by the rainfall that we had either. And,
that was an unfortunate situation. Hopefully not to be ever repeated. That's
well, I sure hope not, Max.
More than manure. What can you say about it? I know we're going to have a big unveiling later on this winter, and there'll be many, many more details to come, but can you give us a brief tease?
Yeah. Boy, are we excited about this. This kind of started a couple, 3 years ago. In fact, Kelvin Brower was my guinea pig, I guess I'll say, because he was such a manure guy and he does such good research. But Kelvin actually did 53 trials of different concoctions that we put out, and he helped us come up with the right mixture to formulate our product, More Than Manure. More Than Manure is a combination of the AVAIL NutriSphere technologies stacked into one product.
Combination?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we're looking at phosphorus protection and nitrogen protection for livestock manures. We've got it simplified, Max, where 1 18-ounce rate per acre is the rate, whether you have chicken litter, whether you have dairy manure, whether you have hog manure or dry lat beef manure.
That's all.
Very easy to use, and the results that we've got coming back, we've had the product out in the field now in test market for a year. The yield results have been coming in anywhere from 5 to 25 bushel per acre in yield response, but that's only part of the story. The rest of the story is that we are reducing the amount of ammonia in these livestock pits in hog buildings, chicken buildings.
Cutting the odor.
Cutting the odor and the ammonia levels in half or less than half. And that is something that we're just extremely excited about.
Let's go to the phone line. Jerry, I believe you're there in Virginia. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Just great, sir. Go ahead with your question or comment.
I grow tobacco in Virginia, and I was wondering, is there a benefit to buying AVAIL and starter fertilizer on tobacco planting, and do you have any research on that?
Well, Jerry, we do. We did some trials with North Carolina State University. I think it was Dr. Fisher there, and we were seeing about a 300-pound increase on tobacco with AVAIL used in the starter fertilizer. So, yeah, you're growing a plant that needs a lot of phosphorus in tobacco, and that's a crop that they've used extremely high rates in the past, and the AVAIL, I think you'll find out that if you use AVAIL-treated phosphorus on your tobacco, that you could actually reduce the amount of phosphorus that you're using and get a better, healthier plant.
Great. Jerry, thank you for the call. We appreciate you dialing in and joining us here on SFP Live. It's amazing how quickly this hour has gone, and we kind of need to summarize.
I can't believe it's over yet.
No. Well, you've got so much information to share. We should point out that over the course of the winter, you will be out there at a lot of locations. In fact, I understand over the next year, you'll be out at some 90 different meetings and events sharing with growers.
Well, due to the success of these products, we've been able to increase the scope of our team. We've got now 17 people out in the field running out there helping out dealers and distributors and growers, and because of that we're now able to attend a lot more local shows. And yes, we have over 90 shows that we're signed up to be at, so hopefully we're at one near everybody that's watching tonight sometime during the year.
There's some key meetings coming up, right? Some well-attended meetings where we will find you.
Yes, National Farm Machinery Show, Top Producer Conference. Of course, we're always at the Farm Progress Show, Husker Harvest
Commodity
Days.
Classic.
Commodity
It'll
Classic.
be in Nashville, Tennessee this year.
National Cattlemen's.
We have a special broadcast, I believe, coming up.
Yes, we do. And our next one that we'll be together on is at the National No-Till Conference. We'll be doing a live show from the actual venue itself in St. Louis. I believe that's January 11th, Max. So that's not that far away.
You talk about innovators like Kelvin. I mean, these are pretty aggressive guys who try things out of the box.
What a great group of people we'll have that night in our audience, and I'm sure the questions will be very challenging for us.
A lot of stuff for livestock producers we'll be talking about, especially with more than manure and talking to the cattlemen later on in the winter. So we look forward to seeing you out there along the way, sir.
Well, we're excited about all of this. We're in the right place at the right time with the right technology.
Privileged to join you again, Dave. Take care of yourself.
Max.
Merry Christmas. You have a good holiday season at your house. We sure appreciate all of you joining us here on this edition of SFP Live. Don't forget the webinar coming up just about 5 minutes from now. Go to the website, sfp.com. Look for that button that says RFD-TV. Just click on that, and there you go. Thanks for joining us. I'm Max Armstrong.